The better question is, why aren't you making a distinction between who is your friend and who you are in friendship with? The distinction between those two came to me once I realized the word acquaintance has too many syllables. Okay, it's a consequence of convenience, clarity, and accessibility. It's the difference between I love you and I am in love with you. Because if you think about it, when we arrive at the term friend, we're typically using it because we've experienced a connection, but very rarely do we move forward from what that connection is. The connection can be something as simple as we met in a common space. We had the same class. We went to the same college. We went to the same yoga retreat. Something connected you, but you did not work to further that connection. That is where friendship comes into play. When I am in friendship with someone, it is a deliberate, it is a meticulous, it is an intentional endeavor. We are building and growing towards each other. We are very much focused on the activities that we're doing for the sake of furthering this connection. And we've seen a lot of arguments around how and why some of our platonic connections should be treated with the same delicacy our romantic connections are. And I couldn't agree more, because the same way that you would want to date with intentions, you should also create friendship with intention. And because we often separate the two in terms of how we approach and what energy we approach those connections, we find that some people have a higher platitude that's assigned to romantic connections than is assigned to platonic connections. If we're finding certain incongruence in the language and the connection that we are experiencing with someone, I think it's an indication of a much deeper issue. It is likely because that person is your friend and you are not in friendship with them, nor are you interested in growing with them. And I think the most sense-making thing to do is part ways, or at least have a conversation and lay out what your intentions are and how you intend to connect with that person. Another thing that it reveals is that you may struggle with your relationship with boundaries, whether it's setting them, enforcing them, or recognizing them. You're struggling because if you have an issue with a friend, and so much so that you have to give them and place them within an archetype or typify them as something that's of inconvenience to you, and which, by the way, community is supposed to inconvenience you. I think we fall into the language of things having to be easy, and that's not to say that you're supposed to fight for things in order for them to have value. That is to say, connections worth keeping and worth preserving will require work. It will not always be aesthetics and vibes. You will have to have comfortability when it comes to having healthy conflicts and having difficult conversations. That is how the friendship builds, that is how it expands, and that is how it grows. Ask yourself, do I recognize who I am friends with and who I am in friendship